Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Lajanusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe Lajanusa. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me again today on Next on the Tee. I am your host, Chris Mascaro, and this morning I am so excited to share 4 great guests with you. First up is going to be Paul Grangaard. Paul is the president and CEO of the Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation. He's led that organization now for nearly 7 years, brought them back from the brink of bankruptcy to now a thriving company that they are today. We're going to talk with Paul about, how he did that, their partnership with Jack Nicklaus. And, those of you, who are regular listeners of the show, you know what a great fan I am of Mr. Nicklaus. Paul and his company, Allen Edmonds, have got a great partnership with Mr. Nicklaus, got some fantastic shoes and some accessories and apparel that they've partnered with him with. So we're going to talk about all of that with Paul here in just a few moments. Following him is going to be Chris Koske. Chris is the Global Director of Product Strategy for Odyssey and Wedges for the Callaway Golf Company. We'll hear about all their new technology and the materials that they are using in their putters this year. Plus, they just recently came out with a PM grind for the Callaway Wedges. What does that mean and why do we need it? Well, we're going to find out when Chris is here about 20 minutes from now. Following Chris is going to be our good friend and Sports One Marketing CEO, David Meltzer. He'll be back for his regular monthly visit with us. We'll hear about what he and his partner, Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, are working on when he joins me at the bottom of the hour. And then we're going to wrap up the show with our new segment, Ask Shaun. Our friend and 2003 PGA Champion, Shaun Micheel, is going to be back with us answering your questions that you sent to us via Twitter and on our Next on the Tee Facebook page. Please keep your questions coming. You can tweet them to me at CT Mascaro on Twitter. And like I say, go to our Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro Facebook page and send us your questions. Shaun really enjoys getting to interact with fans. So he'll be here answering your questions as often as his schedule is going to allow. Joined us last time, and he's back again this week. So we got a bunch of questions over the last week that he'll be answering with us about 45 minutes from now. So it's going to be a great show. I'm so glad that you're here to take the journey with me over the next hour. Next on the Tee is brought to you today by Seymour Putters. Let's get started by hearing a word about our friends over there.
Golfers, has this happened to you? Great drive, perfect second shot on the green, only to 3 or even 4 putt, shaking your head all the way back to the cart. I have good news. Help is on the way with the Seymour Putter. The Seymour Putter Company, patented RST technology, sets up the putter perfectly every time, using a visible gun sight on the top line. Genius. It's like locking radar onto the target, in this case, the golf hole, putting the golfer in perfect position to make a reliable and consistent stroke. The 1999 U.S. Open and 2007 Masters champions both use, you guessed it, the Seymour Putter. So if you're ready to make more putts and take strokes off your game, log on to Seymour.com. That's SEEMORE.com and put a Seymour Putter in your bag today.
Like Joe said, check out their rifle scope technology that helped win 2 majors and 35 tour events. And it's going to help you make more putts too. And I know it's helping me. Now, folks, I was off with my buddies at our annual golf outing last weekend, had 2 of the best putting rounds of my life with the new Seymour Putter. 55 putts over 2 rounds, folks. Not bad. Check them out online, Seymour.com. And like Joe said, it's SEEMORE.com. I also want to give a shout out to our new friends over at Allen Edmonds. The shoes of great leaders, from the Oval Office to corner offices to stage and screen and promising cubicles all around the country, are a part of what make people successful. The right footwear is important on the carpets and the hardwood floors of our global economy. Get it right with made in the USA quality and value from Allen Edmonds. To find the right pair of shoes for you, go to AllenEdmonds.com. Allen Edmonds is an American original. I want to kick off the show like we do every single week here on Next on the Tee by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank all of you for your daily sacrifices, for what you do every day to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank our veterans for all you've done for us over the years. We truly appreciate everything our military personnel do to preserve our freedoms and our liberties, which allows the rest of us to do what we do. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to have our show be a part of your network. You can find us by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. I also want to let our veterans know, be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. It's a great site with news and articles and a wealth of information designed specifically for veterans that I'm sure you're going to find both interesting and beneficial. Be sure to check it out, globalvoiceforveterans.org. I also want to thank, everyone listening in across the internet on great sites like iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and Blog Talk Radio as well. Plus, if someone's dragging you to the mall or to the grocery store, or you're simply tired of the same old while you're out and about and driving on your commute, download the Player.fm or Stitcher app on your smartphone and take us with you everywhere you go. Let us give you something fun to focus on while you're out and about. All right, now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Paul Grangaard. Let me give you a little bit background on Paul. He earned his bachelor's degree at Stanford and his MBA at the University of Chicago. He spent 19 years as an investment banker with Piper Jaffray. He's been the president and CEO of Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation now for nearly 7 years. Allen Edmonds began handcrafting shoes here made in America back in 1922, so they've been doing it now for about 93 years, folks. They were on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008 when Paul took over, and it's been quite a turnaround story since. And I'm so honored to have Paul next on the tee with me this morning. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you very much for having me. And I'd just like to start by echoing your gratitude to our men and women in uniform, especially today, the 71st anniversary of D-Day. So
right.
I give the exact same sentiments out to all the people listening in. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Paul, so you're going along, I'm curious, as I was kind of reading over your bio a little bit, you're going along your career in the investment banking industry. Allen Edmonds is a brand in crisis back in 2002, revenues down 30% since 2006, operating profit down 90%, unable to pay its interest on its debts. What made you say, you know what, sign me up, I can fix that?
Well, actually, I had left the investment banking business, and I was a partner in the private equity firm that had bought Allen Edmonds. And the CEO was a younger fella, really good guy, but he decided to go do something else, and he left, and we needed somebody to jump in as interim CEO. And, we owned the company. We were responsible for it. So I jumped in as interim, and quickly first of all, I loved the job, and I gelled well with the CFO, who's a great guy, the head of manufacturing, another great guy, and the head of systems, who's also a good guy, a great guy. And the three of them all said, hey, you seem to like this, and we like working with you, and we're going in the right direction now. Why don't you stay? And I said, well, I'm glad you said that, because I've been wondering if anybody would be thinking the same thing I'm thinking. And so I decided to leave the private equity world and throw my hat in with those guys and really buckle down and start to work.
There you go. Paul, I read an article in Forbes magazine that said you literally cut your competitors' shoes apart to study how they were made. You examined their pricing structures, and ultimately you talked to your core supporters to understand where the company went wrong. What did they tell you?
Well, what the core supporters told us is, why are you discontinuing the shoes that we've had on our feet for the last 10 or 20 years at work? We had been told by our largest wholesale customer that we were losing our relevance in the mid-2000s, which was an accurate statement, so there wasn't anything wrong with that information, but we misinterpreted what to do about that. What we did was we discontinued several, but in particular four shoe styles really that I had seen in my banking and finance career my whole life. And guys are replacement buyers, particularly with what they wear to the office. So they like to come back to the same shoe that they wear on a regular basis, have been wearing on a regular basis. And we had tried to become more relevant by going for a more European kind of fashion-forward look, which would have been fine to experiment with, and we're still doing that, experimenting with new toe shapes and new looks. But we didn't need to and shouldn't have discontinued our top-selling shoes in order to make room for those new experiments. And that was the big problem, is that we had discontinued our core product line in order to make room for some things that were unproven and turned out not to work that well in the marketplace. So when we did that, we didn't attract those existing core customers to our new styles. We just sent them away to go find them similar styles from somebody else.
When you were cutting apart your competition shoes and you were studying their price structures, what did you learn about them and transfer it to either what you guys were doing or were not doing, and it ultimately ended up making you guys better?
Well, it's everybody goes through officer training in the armed forces knows you got to understand your competition, your enemy, your adversary, and what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And there really wasn't enough of that at Allen Edmonds in the past. We were up in making shoes on the shores of Lake Michigan, north of Milwaukee, and not really going down to Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and shopping what the competition was doing. And so, I had us get competitor shoes, bring them up and see how they're made. And in terms of what we learned that we make shoes. The Goodyear Welt system of manufacturing that we use is the best shoe manufacturing in the world. A lot of shoes that sell for way more than ours are made with construction methods that lead to shoes wearing out much faster and, not being able to be resold later on. So, we learned a lot about the difference in how we make shoes compared to how these other companies make shoes. Do they use a shank in the middle of their shoe or not? How do they finish? One of the things that we really needed to do a few years ago, and we're still working at it, you never stop trying to get better, just like in the game of golf, is we needed to be better about the finishings on our shoes. And we came out with a couple of new leather colors that by paying attention to what was going on in the marketplace really at first caught us up to what others were doing, but then ultimately had us become leaders in some new colors of leathers, brown colors of leathers in particular, that people are liking to wear today. When I was starting my career, I had two bosses, both of whom joked that they would never hire anybody who didn't wear black shoes to work. But the world has changed quite a bit now in business fashion. You can wear brown shoes to work even on a board meeting day. A lot of people do, as long as it's the right brown for the right color suit.
Well, I was talking to our announcer, Joe LaGenusa, about you coming on the show, and he relayed a story about his 9-to-5 boss, who is one of your loyal customers. Now, Allen Edmonds isn't the least expensive brand of shoes out in the market, but as Joe relayed the story, he said his boss bought a pair of Allen Edmonds shoes 5 years ago, and those shoes look as good today as the day he bought them. So I'm guessing part of the strategy is, correct me if I'm wrong, we may not be the cheapest, but we're going to be, a shoe of, great value that you're going to be able to, continue to wear for a very long period of time, and it's going to hold its value and its look over that period of time. Is that right?
Exactly. We've had two slogans while I've been there. The first one was the Great American Shoe Company. Less than 2% of the shoes that are bought in the United States in a given year were made in our country. So we're one of the last men standing in that regard, making shoes in this country. And, the second one is an American original, second slogan. And our goal is to really do what our country has done when it's at its best, is do things that no other country would do, go above and beyond people's expectations or even hopes. It sounds kind of corny, but it really drives all of us at Allen Edmonds to live up to that kind of high ethos, so to speak. So our shoes, the difference between our shoes and the best shoes you could possibly buy, which cost over $1,000, is very small relative to size of the cost differential. And the difference between the quality of our shoes and shoes that might cost $50 to $100 less is quite substantial relative to that cost differential. So we're trying to provide the best investment in high-quality classic shoe wear that anybody could find. And we end up getting shoes sent back to us for recrafting. Actually, anybody saw the Wall Street Journal on Friday, there was a story about service service of apparel and shoe products that people will do to keep things looking brand new long after they've been worn in. And we were featured there as our recrafting service, where we'll take shoes and recraft them, completely rebuild the shoe from the bottom up for somebody and make them look like, wow. And that'll keep shoes lasting for many years. We sometimes get shoes sent to us from the 70s for a third recrafting, wow, or a second recrafting. So these are great investments. You'll never be sorry you spent the extra $50 to $100 for these shoes.
Right, and to that point, I was amazed when you have a 212-step handcrafted process. Talk about the process you guys go through to make those shoes.
Well, it is very handcrafted. Every now and then someone will get a shoe that's not perfect, and they'll question whether we've changed our standards. We're still making them the way we've made them since 1922. There's been a little change in the middle of the process to use one machine that pulls the upper down over the mold around which a shoe is made. It's called a last, L-A-S-T. And, we do the lasting now with pneumatic press machines. But otherwise, the method of making these shoes is very, very much the same as it's been since 1922. Very handcrafted, very human all the way along. 212 steps. They're actually more like 250, good number.
That's cool. Paul, anyone who knows or listens to the show knows I'm a huge Jack Nicklaus fan, and you guys produce golf shoes, hats, gloves, socks, blankets, and a lot of other accessories with the Jack Nicklaus brand on them. How did you guys start out working with Mr. Nicklaus?
It's a funny story. Some of the best things in life happen totally, by a twist of fate and luck. I was with our head of marketing. We each have been invited to go to the Masters down at Augusta by two separate companies, but we were hanging out together, and we made an appointment to talk to Marty Hackle, who writes the fashion column in Golf Digest, who's a great guy, near the big oak tree that everybody who's been there knows about. Right. That's on the backside of the clubhouse at Augusta. And when we walked up to talk to Marty, there was this 6'7" guy, very friendly, named Andy O'Brien, who has worked for Jack most of his career and is responsible for Jack's licensing. And we started talking to him. Marty introduced us, and he's a very friendly guy. He's become a very good friend. He said, "Why don't you think about doing something with Jack?" And I said, Jack's my golf hero, has been most of my life. I could wax on about the battle in the sun in 77 at Turnberry, but especially about the 86 Masters. Right. But all your listeners know about that stuff. But anyway, so I said to Andy, we're a small company and we can't really afford that kind of sponsorship. And he said, Jack's way more concerned today about the quality of the people he associates with than he is about the amount of money he's making. He said, you guys are, great American brand. You sell your shoes to a lot of people Jack knows and, thinks very highly of. And, we think it'd be a great association. You both of us stand for quality and achievement. And I couldn't believe he was saying that, but we ended up going down to West Palm Beach and walking in and sitting with Jack. And I don't want to keep talking on and on, Chris, but there's one story that I just love to tell about meeting with Jack the first time, if you got another couple of minutes. Okay, so we walk in, and actually, Jack was walking around the office, so we bumped into him before we'd been introduced, and he's shorter than I thought. In fact, the first thing he said to me, I'm 6'3", and the first thing he said to me is that he used to be taller, but the strain on his back and his discs have really shrunk, so he's shorter than he used to be. But I thought it was kind of awkward that I was intimidating Jack for the first 2 seconds or 1 second of our exposure, because I sure was intimidated. But I asked him at the end, and this is something I'll never forget. I just read an article about how Luke Donald had talked to Jack and tried to get the secret on how you win major championships. And you know, I mentioned that I had read that article, and I said, what did you tell him? And he said, well, you know, I just told him what you need to do if you want to keep your head in the game and win a major championship. I said, yeah, that's what the article said, but what beyond that, what did you actually say to him? And he said, oh, well, nobody's ever asked for the detail before. And I was dying to hear it. And he said, well, it's just like in business or in other things in life, you don't take risks that would cause you, if they don't turn out right, to lose the tournament or to lose your business or to wreck your family life. He said you only take the risks that you can survive. So, you know, a lot of guys get into a position where they have a chance to win a tournament and they'll start going more aggressively at tens or trying to hold the lead by extending the lead. He said, I took risks, but I would never take risks that would cause me to put me out of the tournament, which I thought was very good advice. For one thing, it was very interesting. And then he told a story about, I think it was the U.S. Amateur. It was at Pebble Beach. It was a tournament at Pebble Beach. And he said, you know, like everybody, you learn your good judgment from mistakes you make. He said that he came up the 18th hole. If he birdied it, he would win. If he parred it, he would be in a tie. And he ended up going for his birdie putt pretty aggressively, and he rolled it 4 feet past and then missed the comebacker and made bogey. And he said, you know, the guy who actually ended up winning the tournament was not somebody Jack would fear in an 18th hole playoff the next day. He thought his chances would have been very good to win in an 18-hole playoff, but he tried to win it right there on the 18th green by being aggressive on his birdie putt, and instead ended up not getting into that playoff. And he said, you know, that was sort of the beginning of him hitting putts so that they die right at the hole, and all the things that he was famous for in his fantastic putting. So there you go.
That's a great story. Yeah, that's a great story. I'm talking with Paul Grangaard, President and CEO of the Allen Edmonds Shoe Company. Got Chris Koske from Callaway Golf hanging on the line. We're going to get to Chris here in just a moment. Paul, a couple more before we let you go. You know, talking about the Nicklaus golf shoe, I love the classic look that you guys have with the Nicklaus golf shoes, and I noticed they're all spikeless soles. So you got a traditional look, but a non-traditional sole. Was that an Allen Edmonds design that Mr. Nicklaus liked, or did he come up with that?
That was Mr. Nicklaus. I actually thought that, you know, given Jack's great legacy to the game of golf, that we ought to work hard at bringing back classic spiked golf shoes. I know there are a lot of people who really like spiked golf shoes, and Jack said, no, you don't need spikes to play golf. You just need some good traction on the grass, but spikes are not really necessary, and that's not where the game is going. So let's be modern, let's be relevant, and let's go with what everybody's looking for. And he wanted to go for a spikeless shoe. So that was quite a surprise to me, but we changed our plans, and we're now on our second spikeless sole. The first one worked really well, but we thought there was work to do, so we have now what we call Jack Nicklaus 2.0. It's a different sole, and candidly, it's a higher quality shoe construction. We brought those shoes into our plant in Port Washington now. We're making them right there and right along the same line with our Park Avenue, our best dress shoes that are worn by the President of the United States and everybody else around the world.
Now, you guys don't use his traditional Golden Bear logo. You went with a silhouette of him making the putt on 17 during the 86 Masters. What made you guys go and change the logo or come up with that logo?
Well, we're not a private label manufacturer. We're a full-fledged brand on our own. So we wanted something to indicate this was a partnership between the two of us rather than what, might happen in other situations where you've got a famous brand and a plant that may not make anything in their own name is making product for that famous brand. So we wanted to have a joint brand, and I got to tell you, I'm sure you feel the same way. The 86 Masters is probably my favorite moment in sports. With this,
absolutely.
I'm a sentimentalist. One of the great things about getting to know, of course, is you get to know the Nicklaus family. And, Barbara is as terrific as everybody says she is. And Jack, too, is a fantastic guy. And, they have Jack on his bag and Jack 2 on his bag and Jack 1 playing the tournament the way he did and winning the way he did in 86. It was just a great moment. And so I wanted to harken back to that. I also think it's a silhouette that every golfer knows, and I like that a lot about it too.
Agreed. I think it's fantastic. I'm a size 9, medium width, by the way, just in case you have any of those, golf shoes you don't know what to do with. Just throwing that out there.
Text me your address, Chris. Text me your address. You'll get them.
I appreciate you. Paul, before we let you go, we got Father's Day right around the corner. For our listeners who want to get something great for Dad that's going to keep him smiling for years to come, what should they be looking at on your site, AllenEdmonds.com?
Well, we have a lot of stuff for sports enthusiasts. One of the things that we've brought in, we're now the largest seller around the country of memento cufflinks, where this company we work with called Tokens and Icons has taken wood from Fenway Park, from Yankee Stadium, from Wrigley Field, from a lot of the great old stadiums around the country, taken out of those stadiums and replaced now with hard plastic. The original wood ones, they've cut them up and put them in sterling silver settings, and they're fantastic. They look like very high-quality cufflinks, and they are. But then when you're sitting next to somebody at a business dinner and conversation turns to your pastimes, you can point to your cufflinks and say Fenway Park. And
there you
especially if it's a Red Sox Nation fan, you're going to have a lot of fun with that. But in Jack's line, other than the shoes, just the hat. I wear my Nicklaus hat with that emblem you were talking about all the time on the front of it, and I get people asking me all the time, where'd you get that hat, who don't know what I do, because they just love the idea of having a very simple Jack. So, the hat is great. Socks are made in the USA also. They're, frankly, they're the same socks that the company that makes them for us, Wigwam, in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. They sell them as Iron Man socks in other iterations, so they're very good socks with Jack's image on the top of them also. So for a Nicklaus fan, the hat, the socks, the golf glove, all the way up to the shoes.
Yeah, and let me just further that point, because I'm a big fan. Not only Mr. Nicklaus but Allen Edmonds. I have the navy blue hat. Wore it last weekend at my annual golf outing with my buddies. Right? I bought the glove a couple weeks ago. This morning I placed an order for a pair of those socks and the white hat. So big fan of all of that stuff. Great stuff on AllenEdmonds.com. Paul, it's been a huge thrill for me to have the opportunity to get to talk to you. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime. Love to stay up to date with all the wonderful things you guys you're doing, and talk more. Maybe as Nicklaus fans, maybe we can share some more fun stories together.
I'd love to. It'd be a real privilege. Thanks very much for having me on today. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, and just a quick, you talked about it at the beginning. I didn't want to forget the 71st anniversary of D-Day. You guys have got a boot coming out as well. Talk about that really quickly.
All right, we I toured D-Day last year, or the D-Day beaches last year with my wife. We went to Normandy, and at the same time, our head of production was working on a vintage boot that looked very much like a paratrooper boot. It's not an exact replica, but it's very close, and it's got a vintage sole on it. It's really very cool looking boot. And so we named it the Normandy in honor of all of our great men and women who served in the armed services, and especially those who fell on June 6, 1944.
Paul, thank you again for taking time out of your morning to be a part of the show. Like I say, I hope I get the opportunity to talk with you again really soon. You're fantastic.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All the best to you and everyone at Allen Edmonds. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks.
Paul Grangaard, President and CEO of Allen Edmonds. Fantastic stuff, folks. And for everyone who's a Nicklaus fan out there like I am, you got to take a look on AllenEdmonds.com and take a look at all the great stuff they have. Hats, the shoes, the socks. They got belts out there from Mr. Nicklaus from 86 to 75 to 73. I mean, great 63. Great stuff out there for every Nicklaus fan. And the shoes are great value. And like I say, those are shoes that you're going to buy today that 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now are going to look as good as they did the day they came out of the box. Maybe a little broken in, but they're still going to look fantastic. Check them out, AllenEdmonds.com. All right, now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is a very patient man, and I can't thank him enough for being patient with me, and that's Chris Koske. Chris is the Global Director of Product Strategy for Callaway Golf, focused on their Odyssey putters and wedges. He's been with Callaway since 2005. Chris earned his BA degree in Communications and Advertising from San Diego State. And thanks to Chris, a gentleman by the name of Neil Javins, he's out there today sporting an Odyssey tattoo on his forearm. Thanks to Chris because of a promotion that he threw out there for a customized Odyssey putter to show for his efforts, which is fantastic. Chris, thanks for being next on the tee with me this morning.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I wasn't sure that anyone knew about that tattoo.
So we got to hear it. Tell the story. How did that happen?
I frequent a lot of the different blog sites just to keep a heartbeat on the industry, if you will, and we do a lot of special putters for tour players, and we've got the ability to do so much, and trying to get it out in the marketplace and just create some buzz is always a little bit difficult. But with this one specifically, we had a cool putter that was sitting around, and I just hopped on Works, and there was a conversation going on around fans of companies, and I said, well, first person to get a tattoo of the Odyssey logo, send me the picture, and we'll do a special one-off putter for you. And surprisingly to me, about 4 or 5 people jumped in and said they'd get one, and they're like, looking for a new piece of art, looking for this, looking for that, and within a couple of days, Neil had posted some pictures online of the Odyssey swirl tattoo, and sure enough, we got him the putter. About a year later, I was able to meet Neil and play golf with them, and it's so cool being able to meet our fans, and it was just a fun little promotion. Like I said, I was surprised anyone really knew about it, and not too many people did. But it was a cool thing to do, and being able to meet Neil and become friends with him after that was a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. So, Chris, you're now the Global Director of Product Strategy for the Odyssey putters and for Callaway's wedges, and we'll get to the wedges in a moment. But talk about what makes Odyssey putters so unique in the marketplace and so sought after.
Well, when I first started working on Odyssey, it was about 6-7 years ago. Obviously pretty lucky to jump on to the number one putter in golf, and it's got such a great history, and from our inserts, which have really put us on the map, to putters like 2-ball. But it's kind of a marriage of art and science, and I was talking with our head designer, Osti Rollinson, yesterday about it, and as we're concepting products out into the future, it's not just paying attention to science like you might with a driver and just trying to hit launch characteristics and things like that, but it's also understanding the game, how people putt, watching people putt, getting feedback, and there's a lot of intricacies that go into that we all do subconsciously when we putt that we may not know about. And we've had technologies like Versa, our alignment technology, come out of that, which a lot of people when they first look at it maybe don't understand why it's working for them.
But subconsciously, we are all making one little last adjustment before we putt to make sure that the face is perpendicular to the target. So, I think it's getting out there and putting, and obviously that's the fun part of my job, is being able to get out there and play golf and learn things every day.
And one of the cool things about doing this show and having a great friend like Shaun Micheel, who's going to join me here a little bit later in the show, Chris, I get a text message from Shaun. I've been playing an Odyssey putter since 2010. So there's an endorsement from a major champion. So that's fantastic. Good for Shaun. Good for you.
Yeah, and I love the thing about Shaun is, a lot of players can get stuck with more of a traditional putter, and Shaun wasn't afraid to try different things, and that's one of the things that we've prided ourselves on, is we've come out with different innovations. They may not always look conventional. In fact, they can look downright weird sometimes, and a player like Shaun wasn't afraid to put those types of putters in play, and he actually played our backstrike putter for quite some time and had a lot of success with it. And so, those are the kind of relationships that we have with the tour players, that it's fun to see guys who are willing to try things that work and not necessarily afraid of what people might say about them.
There you go. Yeah. Chris, I'm not sure anything could get me away from my Seymour putter, but I was in the PGA Tour Superstore a couple of weeks ago, and I tried out, you speak about the Versa, I tried out the Odyssey Versa 330M, and boy, that thing felt so buttery smooth. Talk about the Versa line of putters.
So the Versa line launched in 2013, and we have these serendipitous moments in product development where things kind of all come together, and it started actually probably the back half of 2010, maybe early 2011. We had a designer that was working on a putter that was multi-materials. It was actually 3 different materials, so it kind of had a front piece, a middle piece, and a back piece. And we started, talking about the concept. Our head of R&D, Allen Edmonds, into the room and said, "Hey, he's spending a lot of time on this. Do we want to keep going on it? Let's just sit and talk about it." So we took a look at the project, and from a manufacturing standpoint, what we thought we'd be able to do with that particular concept, we'd be selling $500-600 putters, of which the market tends to be a little bit smaller up there, and it wasn't focused on alignment. And a couple of us in the room took a look at the putter and saw that line down the middle and thought that it could be a cool alignment tool. A lot of people use the leading edge of the putter and making sure that it's perpendicular to your target. Whether they know it or not, a lot of people just use the little sight line on a putter to figure out where to put the ball versus the putter. So we asked the engineer at that point, we said, "Well, just go mark one of these up if you wouldn't mind." And as people know me well, I don't have a lot of patience from time to time. I'm not afraid to admit that. I was sitting in my office, and I had an all-black putter, and then I pulled out some white out and painted the middle of it. And we've got a great down here in San Diego called Mission Bay, and it's got light. So I went out and played there after work. And under the lights, it accentuated it even more because the whiteout was just kind of shining at me. But I was able to really get a good gauge for where the face was. But not only that, I can kind of see that line going back and forth in my stroke and really groove a stroke. And I putted amazing that night. So I brought the putter back to Odyssey, our designer, and said, "Odyssey, I think we've got something here." And it progressed through testing and U.S. tour, over in Europe and Japan. We had called it Project Oreo at the time. So I always thought was fun and really resonated globally. The Japanese players talked about that being the number 1 selling biscuit, which is their word for cookie. And it sat on the shelf for a little while until Chip Brewer came to the company and said, "All right, what do you guys got?" And we showed him the Oreo putter, and he loved it immediately, and we were in market by January of 2013, and it quickly became the best-selling putter in the world. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic story. I'm talking to Chris Koske, Global Director of Product Strategy for Callaway Golf, focused on their Odyssey putters and their wedges. Chris, Talk about the use of counterbalance weight that you guys are using in some of your putters in the top of the grip. Is that counterbalance something that you guys are going to use to help make guys that are sort of used to anchoring the putter feel more stability when they putt and kind of help them with the transition?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can go into a long story about the first proposal of the anchoring bin and where I was and what I was doing. I remember it that clearly. But
wow.
And I think that challenged us a little bit. That was November 27th, 2012, by the way.
Wow. Very nice.
Yeah. Belly putters were really coming on strong. This PGA Championship won with our saber-tooth putter, and they quickly became about 25 to 30% of the sales in the market. And when the announcement of the first proposed ban came about, it really dried up the market quickly. And so it challenged us a little bit. And, I try and look at the bright side of everything. It forced us to look at different ways of helping golfers out who might get a little yippy from time to time, who aren't the smoothest from a transition standpoint. So we came out with two concepts in a few weeks, actually. And counterbalancing has been around for hundreds of years, really. But it was how we did it that I think makes ours a little bit different. We didn't just throw a weight at the end of the putter. We took up the mass of the entire putter. So the first tank putter is the name that we gave it. We came out with was a 400-gram head. We brought out a 135-gram shaft, a 110-gram grip, and then we threw a 40-gram weight in the back end and made it 38 inches. And the idea was being able to get that weight over the hands a little bit, and we like to have it about 2 or 3 inches over the hands typically, and increasing the mass of the entire club, raise the MOI of the entire club, but really help people just with a little bit of a smoother stroke. And from that day to now, counterbalance putters are representing about 30% of the sales in the marketplace, believe it or not.
Wow.
It's been an interesting ride, yeah.
Some of the other things that have come, your guys' way, Chris, you've got the Odyssey Metal X milled putter, the Odyssey Tank Cruiser, and the Works Versa putters. All were gold rated putters this year on the Golf Digest Hot List. Talk about the technology and the materials, particularly in the Metal X milled and the Tank Cruiser putters that you guys have.
Yeah, so again, we're trying to look at every aspect of the putter, and sometimes I get in trouble with the finance guys because we throw the kitchen sink at it, and we're always looking for all the little benefits that we can. And when we came out the Metal X milled line of putters, we said, well, we can do just an all milled putter that's fairly easy to do. That starts falling into the artwork of the shapes and things like that. But we wanted to bring technology to an all milled putter, which you haven't seen as much in the marketplace. So hats off to our engineering team and really developing the processes in order to get that done. So on the face of the putter, we put our patented Metal X pattern on there, which really just helps create friction between the ball and the putter face, and specifically the rounded edges with the dimples on the golf ball. But I think the cool thing about that one was the process of which it was done, and to do that with a standard milling machine was really blowing out our cycle times, and was going to drive the cost up to a point where we probably wouldn't be able to commercialize that product. So while the entire head is milled 1020 carbon steel, with the face specifically, we use a process called chemical etching or chem milling, where we put a controlled amount of chemicals on the face, with a template so that it comes in that oval shape. And it really gives us a precise way to cut into the metal, give us really nice clean edges, and give us the ability to bring that roll technology to a milled putter. The other thing about that putter was we wanted to bring adjustable weighting to the product. And, other guys have adjustable weights in their putters, but if you want to try and find the weights, and I was in a golf shop in Michigan last weekend and heard a guy coming in asking for one of our competitors' weight kit. And store said, "Oh, we don't have that. You got to find that on eBay or direct or however." I kind of just shouted out to him that, well, ours come with it if you'd like to purchase an Odyssey putter. But we wanted to make sure that, if we were going to offer adjustable weights, that we were going to offer the kit along with it, and people can play around with it. And, adjustability is such a big thing in the market. When we see it in drivers and fairway woods and some hybrids of recent times, that we wanted to bring that ability and let people fine-tune the putters to themselves.
Great.
That led us also to the Tank Cruiser putter, which is the first kind of truly adjustable counterbalance putter on both ends. So, the stock putter weight is 375 grams, but we're able with a weight kit to bring the putter head up to 385 or down to 365. And we partnered with Superstroke on a grip that had a hole in the back end, and we've got a weight receptacle in the butt end of the putter where we have weights of 5, 15, and 30 grams, so you can fine-tune really the entire balance of the putter. And, I got some funny stares when I presented the concept the first time to our senior management team. And they said, well, no one's going to change that. No one's, they're not going to take the time to do it. And we did some post-purchase research, and 67% of the guys who had bought the putter changed the weights more than twice after purchase, which is far more than people actually adjust their drivers after purchase. It was, with drivers, we've kind of seen some research of set it and forget it. And with the putters, we've seen a lot of movement and a lot of tinkering around, and a lot of success with it. Lydia Ko's been using the 330 mallet version of the Cruiser quite well over the past couple of years here.
Yeah, I'd say. Again, talking with Chris Koske, Global Director of Product Strategy for Callaway Golf, focused on their Odyssey putters and their wedges. I've got my next guest, David Meltzer, patiently hanging on the line. Going to get to Dave in just a minute. Chris, before we let you go, you guys recently came out with the new PM Grind wedges just a few weeks ago. What is PM Grind, and how is it different from the grooves you guys have used on your previous wedges?
So the PM Grind is probably, it is the most fun wedge I've ever hit, and it's the most fun project I've worked on since being at Callaway. We've got the benefit of having two very special people in the short game work for us. Phil Mickelson being one of them, who, right, when you talk to Roger Cleveland, he says he is the best wedge player of all time, and Roger's worked with all the greats, including going back to Seve, and Roger and I had this conversation the other day of how special Phil really is. Unique thing about Phil is Phil is incredibly smart, and he likes to look at his product and tries to get advantages any way that he can, not just from going out to the course and practicing harder than most golfers, but really looking at every aspect of his game. And then, of course, we have Roger, and Roger is an absolute legend, and being able to work with him day in, day out, and learning everything that I can from him has been special for me in my career. But those two came together. Phil was looking for an extra advantage at the PGA Championship last year, and he wanted to see a wedge that was a little bit more like one of the wedges that he's had in the past, but he wanted some tweaks made to it. He knew the conditions were going to be soft, fluffy. He knew there was going to be some crown greens. He was going to be short-sided from time to time. And, some of the things that people don't know about Phil, when Phil takes a 30-yard flop shot swing, he's swinging about 80, 85 miles per hour. And that's hard for a lot of us to fathom, I think.
Yeah.
But he likes to be really aggressive with it. And with a typical size wedge, he was always afraid that if he that aggressive of a swing, he was going to slide underneath it. And so him and Roger got together with one of our current Mac Daddy 2 wedges. They cut the toe off of another one and kind of made this Franken wedge that they welded together, and it wasn't pretty. The wedge is actually sitting in my office right now, and I look at it from time to time. Yeah, and I think how ugly it really was, and it didn't have grooves all the way up to the top, and I mean it was, it's a piece of work. But from that was kind of the first piece, and obviously Phil played pretty well at the PGA Championship last year.
Right.
So we had a talk. We wanted to bring it to market, and from that point on, Phil was down at our test center, and that's one of the great things that we have access to. Is Phil lives about 20 minutes away from our test center, so he was down every 2 or 3 weeks looking at different prototypes that we had, working on the leading edge, looking at the grind, shaping the toe, looking at the groove pattern and taking the grooves all the way across to the toe, and he was very specific about that. And that's what we haven't seen with many wedges in the past. We've all had that shot where we're short-sided near the green in the rough and we hit a flop shot of some sort, we open up the face, and then we see that ball mark, whether it's in the sand or in the rough, we see that mark that's out really close to the toe. It's usually a little bit high, and there's no grooves there. And of any shot that you want a lot of spin, that's the one. And so having grooves there makes all the sense in the world. And I've presented this wedge to I don't know how many hundreds of people now. And that's kind of that aha moment, like, why didn't anyone do that before? And in a game, we've seen some wedges go with the grooves all the way out to the face, but I've seen it in recent times. So, that was one of the biggest things to Phil, and kind of the most exciting things for us as we've brought that wedge to market. It's got the Mac Daddy grooves in there, which has kind of become a staple of our line, and our wedge business has had a lot of success over the last couple of years, and this wedge is really helping drive it further. It's become the number one selling wedge in our line. It just launched 2 weeks ago, and the initial sales have been absolutely phenomenal. So, credit to Phil and Roger for being creative and not giving up to try and keep improving clubs.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic stuff. Chris, how can our listeners follow? I have not. I would love to, but I have not.
Oh, we'll have to get one out to you. I mean, again, I've traveled around the U.S. and the world this year showing that wedge to people, and the first time people hit it, it's a revelation of sorts, and the things that they can do, and the amount of different shots. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I can't wait to try to hit it. Thank you very much. I look forward to giving it a test drive.
Yeah,
Chris,
absolutely.
How can our listeners follow you and Callaway Golf online and over social media?
Well, our company is taking a little different approach to social media, and we've got a lot of people from the team with different Twitter accounts to be as socially engaged as possible. But I'm at Odyssey _Twitter, or excuse me, _Koske, sorry, Koske. And if you're interested in putters and seeing different prototypes and things like that, or talking Golden State Warriors basketball, that tends to be my trending Twitter topics. I'm on a regular basis, and I'll sneak into some of the golf blogs and have conversations with guys in there, and I'm out there for people to talk to. If you ever have any questions, I'd love to talk to you.
That's fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be a part of the show. You're great. I hope we have the opportunity to catch up with you again soon, because I love the conversation and love to stay up to date on all the great things you guys are working on.
Yeah, anytime, Chris, and thanks for having me on. And if you ever need anything, give us a call. I
appreciate it. Chris, all the best to you and everyone at Callaway Golf. Look forward to catching up again soon.
Take care.
All right, you too, Chris. Thanks a lot. Chris Koske, again, Global Director of Product Strategy for Callaway Golf, focusing on their Odyssey putters and wedges. Look forward to hitting that PM grind. That's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully we get the opportunity to have Chris back on the show again real soon. All right, now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line, being very, very patient, is Sports One Marketing CEO and best-selling author David Meltzer. Dave's book, Connected to Goodness, Manifest Everything You Desire in Business and in Life, continues to fly out of Amazon's warehouse and off the shelves at bookstores around the country. He is positively impacting people's lives all over the world through his company, Sports One Marketing, and his partnership with NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. He recently launched the Meltzer Mission and MeltzerMission.com, which has a wonderful message for folks every single day. And I'm not sure there's a busier person or a more jam-packed schedule than the one that Dave has. So I'm very glad he was able to be patient with me this morning and is joining me next on the tee. Good morning, Dave. How are you this morning?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much, and it's no problem. You're well worth the wait, my friend.
I appreciate you. Dave, I wanted to start out this morning talking about a recent visit that you and Warren Moon had at NASA, of all places. You guys spoke there, and for anyone who hasn't watched that video and that performance, you can find it on Dave's page, the Connected to Goodness Facebook page. Dave, can you share a little bit about what you and Warren were talking about with the folks at NASA?
Yeah, we're involved with NASA and the Beating the Odds Foundation, which has a program called Quarterbacks for Life. And Warren has been a quarterback for life for a while, and I've recently joined. Obviously, it's on and off the field if I'm involved, mostly the off the field since I can't throw a football. But it's teaching the principles that I discuss in my book in a variety of ways to help empower kids to live and achieve everything that they dream of. And I think no better place or venue to do that than at NASA. And it was amazing. They each had a project about going to Mars, and we had this great project where the kids each took on some sort of idea that would help the astronauts make this mission to Mars. And it was absolutely fascinating, and the kids were intelligent, charismatic, motivated, and we really had a great time and just met amazing people and amazing kids. So we encourage anyone to participate in the Beating the Odds Foundation program that they have across the country.
In a couple of weeks, you're going to be at the ESPN LA Golf Classic at the Los Coitos Country Club in Buena Park, California. What are you guys doing there?
We're working with ESPN. We have a great celebrity tournament. Once again, raising money for the Crescent Moon Foundation, scholarships for kids, getting everyone out there, raising awareness. It's just amazing to me with the billions of dollars spent in a variety of different ways from our government that we just can't find more money for the most important thing, our future. And if anyone's mistaken, our future are our children, and educating those children are the most essential thing that we have to do.
You guys are also going to be at the ESPY Awards next month, which is one of my favorite events to watch every year because of the tie-in with the V Foundation, the speech that Jim Valvano made when he received the Arthur Ashe Award many years ago, maybe one of the greatest speeches of all time. It's certainly my favorite, and the V Foundation is a charity near and dear to my heart. Talk about what it's like to be a part of that event.
That's one of my favorite events because it's the combination of not only the greatest athletes from all sports, but also entertainers. And it's so much fun for me, ever since I ran Lee Steinberg and then now with Sports One, to see the integration. And I have, a great perspective of every athlete wants to be an entertainer, every entertainer wants to be an athlete. So when you get them together, it's a mutual admiration society, and it's one of the funnest events for one of the best causes. The V Foundation represents one of my favorite types of philosophies, which is practice, persistence of perspective. And, that's what Jimmy V was able to do as a coach, winning the national championship, and then furthermore in his life, in his fight against cancer and raising awareness to fight cancer, and someday, as he said, to practice the persistence of perspective that we can cure cancer, which is the number one killer in the world.
As I mentioned in your intro, Dave, you recently launched the Meltzer Mission and your site, meltzermission.com. Remind our listeners what inspired you to do so and what they can find on your site.
The Meltzer Mission has these challenges, and I started with a gratitude challenge, and I do mission meetings around the country for corporations and for individuals where we take the micro missions of life, the different things that we have to do, as I say, at this vibration and in this world. It's this utopian philosophy where people say, we can live in a non-judgmental world with no conditions, and there's this, ethereal, utopic vision of being good and happy. But what I like to do is take it down to the pragmatic world, the one where we have bills to pay and we have families to support and we have things to do and T-ball games to go to and all of these things. And so we want everyone to have this perspective of gratitude and empathy. So as our friend from Callaway was talking about, how they have the subconscious alignment in their putters, which is how I play golf. Subconsciously, but what it's the only way I can because I have no conscious talent. But the subconscious side of it, we need to train, and we do that utilizing a process of understanding gratitude in 30 straight days. So I have a challenge. We're launching an app to remind you and to do other things to be thankful, but simply by saying thank you before you go to bed and when you wake up, you can change your life. And if you do it 30 straight days, it goes into your subconscious, and our subconscious are far, far more powerful than our conscious. And that's really what the Meltzer mission is about, is proliferating these mission meetings to provide people access and a platform to be happy and to empower others to be happy.
That's fantastic stuff. Another thing you did not that long ago, Dave, that is fantastic for me was you threw out the first pitch at an LA Angels game, and for our listeners who haven't seen the video, it wasn't a lollipop throw, nor was it a pitch that we see so many stars do, which is kind of bounce it up in there. It was a strike right down the middle. Catcher barely moved his glove at all, so kudos to you. But talk about that experience.
It was an amazing experience for me. I am blessed. People ask me, what's on your bucket list, Dave? And I said, no, if it's on my bucket list, I just add it to my job description. So one of the things that I thought about was throwing this first pitch out. And, I'm a big fan of baseball. I play a lot of baseball. Even with NABA, still we had won the 45 and over World Series of baseball in Arizona. I'm not a starter,
wow.
but I'm more. I'm on the team, and but I do have a high batting average. But we going out there, it was really more about this majesty of calmness that Warren Moon, my business partner, has taught me over the last decade. It's a thing that I wanted to work on, was how do you walk out in front of 100,000 people like he did so many times and, just focus in on the job at hand. And, for someone that doesn't play professional baseball, someone that hasn't played baseball in years, to go out in front of thousands of people from the mound and throw a knuckleball strike, it was a test more than anything else for me. And when I passed the test, it was really a lot more exciting than I thought it would be, and I really enjoyed it even more than I thought I would. So I highly, highly suggest anyone that has the opportunity to do that or anything like that to take advantage of that experience.
No, I'm sure that had to be a huge adrenaline rush, and I'm very proud of you when I saw that video. I was like, wow, look at that. That had a little something on it right down the middle. Catcher didn't even barely need to move the glove. That's fantastic. Good for you, Dave.
Yeah, it was the catcher was my favorite part when I, enthusiastically jogged to the catcher to get the ball back. He said, "Was that a knuckle?" I said, "Sure was." He said, "Man, good pitch. I don't see many of those out here."
I bet that's right.
Yeah, he was surprised. It was really fun.
You guys have a great tie-in with Nike, and they have really supported you and the charities that both you and Warren Moon work with and for supplying some Rory McIlroy drivers for some of the gifting that you guys are doing. Talk about the relationship you guys have with Nike.
Yeah, so we started with Nike football, being in the space that we were in, and it moved to Nike baseball training, and then to Nike golf. And those Nike golf products and the Nike golf people, more importantly, are amazing. And, golf is lucky to have such visionaries. They're constantly looking at not only the technology behind golf, which they have unbelievable research and development, but more importantly, they're looking at the game of golf and how to reinvigorate and to gain more momentum for golf itself. And that's really what excited Warren and I about this golf project is we want to get more people involved with golf. And so, we have a project with One Up Golf and Top Golf, which provides golf to everyone. Golf, even for me, who I love golf, I'm the guy that goes out, 5:40 in the morning and plays 9 holes, or grabs my 5-year-old son and plays the last tee time for an hour. But this One Up Golf, for example, they're brand new. They have these facilities that make golf like Lucky Strike. It's a corporate event. It's an everybody event. They have all these games and analysis and training and retail and drinks and food, and it's just a great experience. And all it's going to do is raise the profile and awareness and enjoyment of golf the way that fantasy football has raised the enjoyment and awareness and profile for both men and women for football. It's going to be just a wonderful, wonderful next decade with all these great ideas that Nike has for golf. And they also support so many kids in learning golf. So that's what we're doing with them. So very, very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dave, as we look ahead to the U.S. Open, if you were going to be laying down a few dollars here or there on a winner, who would your money be on?
I'm partial. If you go back into our podcast, you'll know that my picks have been right on. I have this connection. The sports that I'm not very good at, I seem to do really well in picking. For example, I won the NCAA basketball, so many different pools, and I had Wisconsin and had the Final Four actually all picked. So I won a lot of those. I'm really partial to Spieth and Rory. I think those two guys, when push comes to shove, I look and see what guys at the top of their game are the best golfers in the world. And right now, I think those two players, if they play their best, they're going to win. And because of their clarity, balance, and focus that they have, they seem to play their best in the big tourneys. And so I'm really excited to see those two guys play. I did find on the Memorial this week an interesting story, because I know you and I are golf and football guys.
Right.
Did you know that Lingmerth's uncle played for the Browns?
I did not.
Yeah, so Goran Lingmerth, his uncle, he kicked for the Browns in 1987. And in fact, he played with one of my friends at Northern Arizona, where he set an NCAA single game record. He kicked 8 field goals, his uncle, in one game for Northern Arizona.
Wow.
And he's the one, Goran. After his short stint with the Browns, was probably lucky for him, he became a Ping Club rep and gave David Lingmerth his first set of clubs when he was 12 because he was a Ping Club rep.
There you go. Very nice story.
Well, you heard it here first, my friend.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Dave's book, once again, is called Connected to Goodness. You can find it online at connectedtogoodness.com as well as on Amazon.com. Dave, thanks for joining me again this morning. I always look forward to the privilege to talk with you, and we get to do it every week on the football side on our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, and I look forward to doing it again next month here on Next on the Tee. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me anytime, and I appreciate, of course, all of our great listeners, so thank you.
Very much. Take care, Dave. We look forward to catching up and talking with you again real soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, Dave. David Meltzer, again, Connected to Goodness. You can find it online at his own site, connectedtogoodness.com. There's a Connected to Goodness Facebook page, as well as on Amazon.com. All right, now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is a guy, again, thanks very much for being patient with me this morning, is Shaun Micheel, 2003 PGA Champion. He's joining me as his schedule permits to answer your questions. So please continue to send your questions throughout the week to my Twitter page, at CT Mascaro, and then also to our Facebook page, Next on the Tee. And Shaun will be is excited to interact with the fans, and he has been gracious enough to answer questions. And certainly, I appreciate his patience this morning. Good morning, Shaun.
Hi, Chris. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for hanging with me. I really appreciate it.
It's not a problem. Not a problem. There's always a lot of interesting things to hear and say out there in golf world.
Absolutely. So, Shaun, let's get into the questions this week. We had several people write in with questions about Chambers Bay and the U.S. Open. Did you ever get a chance to play at Chambers Bay?
I've not played there. No, I'm kind of just going on what I'm kind of getting through Twitter and Golf Channel and those types of things. It sounds like a very interesting golf course, much like kind of Whistling Straits where the PGA Championship's going to be held. But I know they did have a U.S. Amateur there a few years ago, but I really don't know anything about it, which probably means that if I qualify Monday, I'm not going to win. So if all that holds true, that says if you're only going to play 2 practice rounds and then not don't have a chance to win the U.S. Open, then that's probably going to be me. And I'll just jump in line with the rest of the 150 some odd guys. I guess that's going to leave it up to Tiger and Phil, since they're playing practice rounds. I guess it's going to be up to one of those 2 guys. The rest of us will just play for second.
But are you going through qualifying? Might we see you out there next week?
Yeah, on Monday. I've got here in Memphis. There's a qualifier, 18 holes at my home club, so I know the course hopefully,
wow.
And then 18 holes at another course called Germantown Country Club, and so I'm actually out there with I don't know one of the players, but Woody Austin's There's 3 of us going out there, and me and Woody are going to play together, so that'll be fun. I haven't seen Woody in a little while, so I don't know how many spots are going to be. There'll be it's a tour event. You got tour sites at both Memphis for the FedEx St. Jude Classic next week and the Memorial. So the guys will stay here. Most of the guys in Columbus will stay around Columbus. A lot of the guys that, there'll probably be a few guys that come to Memphis, but for the most part, I think they'll stay up there. And then, we've probably got 115, 120 guys here playing for 15 to 18 spots. So it's, pretty good percentage of guys that can make it. If you play well, you can head on over to the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and speaking of Germantown Country Club, my parents were members of Germantown for many years. Lived right up in the fairway on 18. So 18's a par 5 dogleg right, and they were right there on the dogleg. So good luck out there.
Well, you know what? That was Farmington Country Club, and they used to have a huge national event there called the Bubba Conley, which was kind of a premier event for all of us junior players to play in, and it's I don't know if it's still in existence or not. If it is, it's not there. But what a great event! But I was out there 2 days ago, so I got to play the golf course and remember how tight it was and is, and so it'll be a good test of golf. Two different styles of courses.
Yeah, good luck. We're rooting for you.
Yeah,
Sean,
okay.
We got a question over Twitter about why you chose to play your college golf at Indiana University. Did the University of Memphis or Tennessee try to recruit you?
Well, that's kind of a long story. I'll try to be as quick as I can. I ultimately chose. I was going to Kentucky, and Steve Flesh. I went up there. My dad and I went up there for a visit, and we went to the UNLV Kentucky game in Rupp Arena and got to see the campus, and it was a great place to be. Now, keep in mind, I did a lot of things when I was in high school. I played basketball. I think I quit after my freshman year, and I pretty much focused on golf. But there weren't a lot of national tournaments. I think the AJGA Tour came into existence in maybe about the mid-'80s, 85, 86, something like that. So that's coming right into my junior and senior years of high school. So there weren't a whole lot of national events. Now, I won the State of Tennessee High School Tournament twice. I won it my sophomore year and my senior year and those types of things. But there weren't a whole lot of national events. And to be honest with you, at the time, I really kind of thought I was just going to follow in my dad's footsteps and become a pilot. I had got my pilot's license when I was a senior. But ultimately, I took a visit up to IU, and I just really kind of fell in love with it. And met the guys and really enjoyed them. And after my second year of college, our coach retired. And the coach that was there with the women named Sam Carmichael had played the tour for, 7 or 8 years and had a lot of really good ladies teams, had some really good players. Michelle Redmond played the LPGA Tour for a lot of years. I think she's coaching at Minnesota now. But I knew that I wanted to play the tour. And so I decided to stay. But most people do ask me about why I went up there, and I wasn't as recruited nationally. The summer of between my high school and my freshman year of college, I won the Future Masters, which was at the time one of the biggest junior events in the country, if not the world. I won that event, and that's really when I started getting a little bit more recognition. But by then I'd already signed my letter of intent, and I just felt like it was important for me to honor that. I think LSU had contacted me, Mississippi State, Florida, and some other schools, and but I'd already signed my letter of intent. And to be honest, my dad wanted me to go to West Point. I got recruited by them, but I wasn't quite ready for that, so I didn't take orders too well. But in a nutshell, that I just went to Indiana because I loved it. And even though it was cold up there, it gave me a chance. It gave me a break. But again, I wasn't as nationally recruited, going into college as maybe some of the other guys, just because I wasn't really traveling and doing those sorts of things.
Another listener wants to know what U.S. Open setup was the most difficult that you played in.
Well, Shinnecock, I would say, in 2004. My first U.S. Open was in 1999 at Pinehurst, and I'd heard so much about that place, and it was tricky, and most of the trickiness was surrounded the greens there. But Shinnecock, as far as a tee to green setup, was the most difficult I've ever played. I believe going into the last round, I think when I made the turn on Sunday, I was in, maybe 10th. I'm just gonna say 10th place. And Charles Howland, I think, we're out there playing, and it was windy. And if anybody remembers what had happened there, the 7th hole was a par 3, and not a really long par 3. It was probably a 7-iron. But the green sloped. It was a Redan green. It was severely sloped from back to front left. And I remember going by one of the holes and looking over there and seeing that they were watering the green, which I thought was odd because somebody had just left the green. Well, Kevin Statler had apparently had a 3 or 4 foot putt for par, and he putted it, missed it, and it rolled all the way off the green into the bunker. And
wow.
After about the 3rd or 4th group, they started watering the greens. And that was really one of the first times that I recall the USGA ever admitting that the course had just gotten away from them. But, it was impossible. I think I shot, I had to go back and look, maybe 1 over on the front, even 1 over, and I think I was 6 or 7 over on the back.
Wow.
It was windy. It was hot. The ball was just, you couldn't stop it. It was impossible, really. I shot 80. I don't know how many guys shot 80, but I think I started the day in 13th or 14th place, and I shot 80, and I still finished 28th. So usually when you shoot 80 on a Sunday, you go from 10th or 13th to like 70th. So that tells you just how difficult it was. It was really frustrating. It was really the first time that I just kind of lost my temper with the rules official. We have a walking rules official with us, and I just told him I could not believe that they let the golf course get to where it got. It was difficult, and I love difficult courses, but it was absolutely unfair. And but the thing is, somebody's going to win, and I think obviously shooting 80 that didn't help things with my attitude, but. That was the most difficult course that I remember, difficult U.S. Open I've ever played. That's probably the most difficult conditions that I've ever played in. Sure, you play in wind, you play in rain and things of that nature, but as far as having a perfectly sunny day and it was just hot and windy and dusty, and it was just every shot was, it was obviously it's not life and death out there, but it's about, how well you're going to play in your Open Championship. And you'd be in between clubs and you were guessing. The pace of play was really slow. Everybody's just trying their best. Shots are rolling off the greens, and of course you're witnessing all this stuff. The guy in front of you has putted it off the green, and now you're like, where do I hit this ball? And I think that's where it really comes down to the fairness of the game and the equitability of the game. Is are there really no places to hit the ball to where you're safe? And it almost got to that point, and that's where you kind of deem a course unfair.
Mm-hmm. Similar to the last question, Shaun, we hear an awful lot about the U.S. Open rough. Did you ever get in a rough that was, you were just barely off the green in a U.S. Open, and the lie made it so that you had to chip it back into play? You really couldn't get your club on the ball?
That's happened a lot. It still happens. It happens on on the regular courses as well. Wingfoot was like that. Of course, you play some of these events in Europe, the Open Championships, where you can remember Carnoustie, remember Jean Van de Velde, what he did. I've played courses where the rough was like that. it takes a pretty errant tee shot to get into areas of that severity. But, and the U.S. Open started this a number of years ago, maybe a winged foot or maybe even a little bit, but they did this graduated rough. They kind of determined that, because what was happening is the golf courses are typically so firm at U.S. Opens. That's how they like to have them. Guys were just missing the fairway by, say, 3 inches, and they were absolutely dead. And a guy would miss the fairway by 10 or 12 yards, and he might be okay where the people were standing. So they started widening the fairways a little bit like that. The PGA has done that a couple of times, but I don't know. Oak Hill was like that when I won in 2003. It was chip out rough. I think that's why there were so few guys under par. If you hit it in there, it was pretty much just hack it out and get up and try to make par. But that's frustrating when you hit a fairly decent tee shot and you have no opportunity to get to the green or even create any type of shot. And I don't think the fans like that either. I think they like to see tough courses. Some like to see really difficult greens. Some people like to see really difficult conditions, weather-wise. So everybody has their thing, I guess. But as a player, it's frustrating when you just miss the fairway and you have no attempt to get to the green. And that's not a lot of fun.
No, and maybe this is just personal preference, as you point out, Shaun. But I much prefer seeing things like we typically see at Augusta National at the Masters, where there are opportunities for birdie and eagle out there, particularly on the back nine, and to see guys have the opportunity to make a charge and make a run, versus just seeing train wreck after train wreck because the greens are tricked up or the fairways are tricked up with rough. To me, that's not any fun. I don't like watching you guys having to grind and struggle out there, because we can tell you're frustrated, and that doesn't make for fun golf for me to watch.
Well, and it doesn't make a whole lot of fun for fans, because the guys will just, once you get to a certain point in the day or the tournament, guys are just they're kind of just mentally giving up. They're not really giving it their 100% attention. And you can see that. You can see when a guy's giving up. I mean, I certainly have done it, just attitude-wise. But I think you want to, if you're going to, the one thing Augusta does, it allows you to play shots. Now, if you're out of position, that ball may just be sitting there on a little light tuft of grass, but you're going to be tempted to try to create something. And that's when you get into trouble. And it lures you into, and when you have a golf course that is the rough is so deep, well, guys just take it out. It eliminates really the double bogeys, because guys just take up their wedge and they hack it up the fairway and they hit an 80-yard shot and they make bogey. But when you encourage guys to try to, oh yeah, I think I can do this, and we all have that ego in us, and that's when you airmail the green, or you chunk it in the rough, or you do all sorts of crazy things. So, like I said, there's a little bit for everybody out there. People like Augusta for the scoring. I don't know how well it was received this year. I mean, obviously Jordan played well and they got a great champion, but as far as the way the greens play, they look pretty soft. I don't know. I mean, but look, not everybody issued 18 under, 17 under, something like that. So
18 under.
There's opportunities to score, and if you're playing well, that's that's kind of what you want. I don't like it when everybody has a chance. I think that's why I've always liked difficult courses. I like them where they challenge you mentally, they challenge your ability off a tee, and those types of things, versus everybody just going out and just bombing it, and everybody's got an equal chance to get it on the green. Because that's no fun. That just right there goes to the long hitter. And as you know, the game has kind of gotten a little crazy with the length out there. Guys are carrying it 330 yards, and
right.
I'm 46 years old. I can't do that. So time's passed me by.
Shaun, a couple more before we let you go. We got a question about hearing about players talk about how courses suit their eye. Talk about what that means. And the writer asked, was there a course out there that really suited your eye well?
I like golf courses that I feel like I'm enclosed. Look at Oak Hill. Look at Medina, where I finished second in 2006. And for some reason, I've always liked that. The way courses seem to be going these days are, let's eliminate every tree on the golf course. I hate feeling like I'm just standing out there in the middle of a pasture and I'm just got the spotlight on me. I like to be enclosed. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because my eye, it helps me shape the ball. It gives me some perspective. and it's probably a lot easier to play a golf course like that. One of the most difficult courses that I've played, and it had changed so much between the two U.S. Opens. One I did play, one I did not, was Oakmont. Oakmont, if you remember, Lauren Roberts is a good friend of mine, finished second in the U.S. Open. There was him and Colin Montgomery, and I think Ernie Els won his first one there. They had trees in like 94 or something. And then, they cut every tree down. And so you see every bit of trouble out there, and not just on your hole, on every other hole too. So your mind is constantly, and the open courses, it's so difficult to find a target to aim at, whether you're aiming at a tree or whatever. You just don't have that. You go to St. Andrews and you get to the, I don't know, what is it, the second or third hole or something like that. You're aiming at the control tower at Lucas Airfield, which is, a couple miles away. And it's just a little unsettling to me. I like the feeling of being enclosed, where I can just, I don't know, I just don't like the feeling of being open. It's kind of hard to explain that. So, and I've always been that way. I really have. I've never liked the course. I think it's just because I see all of the trouble out there, and I have a difficult time focusing on what I'm trying to do.
Listener just wrote in on our Facebook page, when we're all putting poorly, we blame the putter instead of the puttee. Did you ever change putters and immediately start putting well, but then slide back and go back and get the old putter?
Oh, of course. Growing up, I used an old Ping B60 for years, and it had a plumber's neck on it. And I kind of would putt pretty well with it, and then kind of go away from it. But I think you always kind of keep it in the closet. You hear that guys take it out and give it a little bit of a rest. And but when you find something that looks good to your eye, that's usually where I kind of gravitate towards those. Whether if I'm looking for something new or whatever. Sometimes it's okay. Just put it up. Try something different. But if you're going to try something different, really try something different. And I texted you earlier about the putter, the Odyssey that I'm using. I've been using an Odyssey Backstrike Marksman since 2010. Now, I've tried a couple others. I've tried Scotty's, and Scotty's made me a couple beautiful putters. But this Marksman, when I changed putters in 2010, I went to something that was so kind of out there. I was always kind of a blade type putter, heel shafted blade, and this kind of bucked the trend. And it's a center shafted, it's a stroke balanced putter. So when you lay the putter in your palm, instead of it facing up like a face balance, the putter face is perpendicular to the ground, and I love it. And so if you're going to change putters, you got to change something really crazy. If you're a blade style putter, try a mallet. If you're a mallet style putter, try something different. You're going to feel it in your hands. You're going to feel it in your stroke, just because typically the mallet putters are more face balance, and so you're going to feel a more straight back, straight through type of stroke versus something that has maybe a quarter or even a half toe hang, which I always like quarter toe hangs. It allowed the putter to swing a little bit, but it wasn't so much like if you think of an 8802 style putter that's right in the heel of the putter. Well, that just hangs straight down. That's got a lot of face rotation. So these putters aren't just for look. They're designed to offer people different strokes. If you feel like you're, open to the face too much, go find you a center shafted mallet style putter. If you feel like you'd like to have a little bit more face rotation, focus on the toe hang and where the shaft comes into the head, those types of things. So long answer, but if you're going to change putters, the bottom line is find something just totally different look, and give it a try.
There you go. Shaun, one more before we let you go. Another Facebook question coming in. Do you have any golf superstitions about the things you wear or the things you eat or something you have to do in order to play well?
I don't know. My caddy and I have argued about that for a long time. I think maybe I've marked my golf ball, and I don't know if that's a superstition or it's just a habit. I mean, I guess you could get into the philosophical differences of defining either one of those words, but I've marked my ball the same way for a long time. Now, I used to mark my ball with a pencil. You can't get a pencil in the cover of the ball anymore, so I've had to go to the Sharpies. But I've marked it with one red dot on the side for as long as I remember. Matter of fact, I was was going through some of my golf bags last night, and I found balls that were, probably 10, 12 years old, and it's all got the same mark. But if you want to call that a superstition, I guess I have that. The other thing that I like to do is I like to mark my balls on the green with a foreign coin. It could be a
Really?
10-pence piece from Scotland or London. It could be, I've got coins from almost every country that I've played in. I've probably played in 31, 32 countries around the world, and so my bag is filled with all sorts of crazy things. And I think it's different, and it just reminds me of just a neat time in my life when I traveled the world and played in kind of faraway lands, and really kind of got me to where, not say where I am today, but at least got me back onto the PGA Tour on a more consistent basis. I loved Asia, so I have that. I have what else do I do? I don't really do anything else. I mean, other than that I can think of. I don't have any superstitions about what I eat or what time I get up. I just kind of, as I've gotten older, I kind of get up. I used to get up 2.5 hours before my tea time. I don't do that anymore. So there's been a lot of things that have changed, but I don't really have anything. When I think of a superstition, I think of, okay, if I don't do this, it's going to affect my game and my day is ruined. I don't have anything like
right.
that, because I'm going to mark my ball. I've got to mark my ball anyway, so it's not like I can forget to do that. So I guess I would have to say no, that I don't really have any. So I've always been kind of interested and perplexed by people that just had to do those types of things in order to get through their day. I always kind of felt bad for people that had to do that. And but anyway, I don't have any of that.
All right. Well, Shaun, remind our listeners how they can follow you and send you questions directly over social media, as well as, they can obviously send them to me at CT Mascaro and our Next on the Tee Facebook page. But how can they get them directly to you if they want?
Yeah, so I'm at Shaun Micheel PGA is my Twitter account, and you can just find me, Shaun Micheel, on Facebook. And I've had some fun with it. I'm always interested to hear. I got a few questions a while ago, and I haven't heard from too many people lately, but always nice to hear from my fans.
That's fantastic. Shaun, again, thank you for being patient with us this morning, coming back on the show again this week. It's always a privilege to get the opportunity to hear you share your stories and answer the questions from our listeners here on the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chris. I'm always happy to be on and share some of my life with the great listeners out there. Fantastic.
Shaun, have a great rest of the weekend. We look forward to doing it again as your schedule allows. Best of luck, out at your, I'm assuming when you say your home course, that's Southwind there in Memphis as well
Ridgeway.
As Germantown.
Yeah, Ridgeway Country Club. TPC Southwind is where the FedEx St. Jude Classic is going to be starting next week. But Monday, I grew up at Ridgeway Country Club, which is, of course, not too far from my home. So been there since 1982. I was, 12, 13 years old when I joined there. So that's my home club.
Okay. Well, good luck playing there and at Germantown, and we are certainly rooting for you to make the field at the U.S. Open, and hopefully we get the opportunity to watch you out at Chambers Bay. But all the best to you.
Yeah, me too,
Chris.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Take care, Shaun.
Okay.
Shaun Micheel, 2003 PGA champion. Great stuff. We had several other questions we just didn't have time to get to. We will get to those. Hopefully, Shaun will be able to join us again next week. We'll get to those. Please have your questions continue to come to us on our Facebook page, Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro. You can find us there. You can certainly send them to Twitter to Shaun at his address, or you can tweet them to me at CT Mascaro as well. All right, folks, it's been a great show, and thanks again to all of our guests for being patient with us, and such great stories they shared. But it's time for us to put a bow on this one. Before we go, I also want to give a quick shout-out today to our good friends over at golfballs.com. If you're looking for a great gift idea for Dad for Father's Day, check out the wide variety of gift options at golfballs.com. Get Dad's name, his initials, or favorite saying printed on his favorite brand of golf balls or on some tees. Or, you can get a personalized hat, a towel for him. Make Dad's day special and memorable for him with a personalized gift golf item from golfballs.com. Golfballs.com is the online leader in golf customization. Before we close up shop, I also want to remind you once again about the great book from our good friends Dave Stockton and Dave Stockton Jr. called Own Your Own Game. If you're starting, to get out there physically and you've got the rust sort of shaken off, but you still need a little tune-up, remember, so much of the game is played in that 5-inch space between our ears. Get your mind right. In this latest book, the Stocktons let you know how to use your mind to play winning golf. Own Your Game recreates the experience of riding 18 holes with Dave Stockton at one of his highly sought-after corporate outings and draws from his experience as a champion tour player, both on the regular tour and the senior tour. Plus, he's a revered coach. He shows you how to think better, stay calmer, execute more consistently, and most importantly, how to enjoy the game more thoroughly. Go to StocktonGolf.com to get your copy, and for a couple extra dollars, he'll even autograph it for you. All right, folks. My sincere thanks again to Paul Grangaard, Chris Koske, David Meltzer, and Shaun Micheel for joining me today and for making today's show so much fun to be a part of. And we thank you for tuning in. You know we appreciate you the very most. Please also check out our sister show, ThursdayNightTailgate.com, with me and my co-host, Bob Lazzari, our announcer, Joe LaGianusa. You know that show airs every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can stream it live on Blog Talk Radio as well as on Armed Forces Radio. Plus, on Friday nights, you can hear us from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time over on Boost Radio. You can find us at boostradionetwork.com, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday nights. That show, like this one, is also available on iHeartRadio. You can find us on Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player.fm, Audio Boom. Our thanks to our new friends over at Audio Boom and SoundCloud as well. We're joined every week on Thursday Night Tailgate by legends from around the NFL and the Canadian Football League. Please also check out both shows on Facebook. Give us a like. That's important to us, too. You can find us online, this show, nextonthetee.net. and ThursdayNightTailgate.com. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free, plus keep up to date with who some of our future guests are going to be on both sites. Thanks again, folks, for choosing to listen to this show today. We really appreciate that. Until next week, get 'em straight, my friends.